Hey everyone, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, I was just out for a walk. It's a beautiful day here in Middle Tennessee, and it's a fall afternoon, and I was thinking about a blog post that I was going to write when I got back, and I realized, hey, I've got my camera. That's perfect. I'll just talk into the camera. I'm just going to talk off the top of my head, but I think this will probably be more effective in communicating with you this way maybe than even writing something. So anyway, the topic was on the internet and how that has helped so many of us in learning. It's given us things that I could never even imagine. I'm 42 years old. I would have loved to have had YouTube back when I was learning how to play guitar at 14 or 15 back in the 80s. But with all the advantages that come from internet, with instant this, instant that, there's some disadvantages, and I think it's hurting some players. And I just wanted to mention it because I've got a few tips that I think can help overcome some of that. I think there's some things you should do to supplement, or to complement, I guess, what's going on with your online learning. Even if you're doing one-on-one learning with somebody, these are things that can help with that as well. So one of the things that I've noticed is, back in the day, I'm going to sound old here, but when I had to learn how to do something, or wanted to learn how to play something, I had to slow down the record, or I had to take the cassette or whatever it was and just play it over and over and over again and try and figure it out. And if it was a real fast little, guitar run or something, sometimes you just couldn't do it. I just couldn't figure it out. I would do the best I could. But it seems crude, especially if you're young and you've grown up with the internet. You're probably thinking, man, that's like dinosaur days. And I guess comparatively it was, but what that did do is it forced me to develop an ear that I might not have had otherwise. I think there's a downside to the internet and having everything spoon-fed to you. And one of those downsides is that you're not forced to have to sweat over it a little bit. And sometimes, even though the sweating part it takes longer and it's more of it can feel like a nuisance, you're learning in that process and you're growing. It's kind of like working out, it kind of hurts, but you are growing muscles. And so anyway, I think that there's a few things that you can do to kind of complement that deficit. And one of those things would be, that I like to do even to this day, is play along with an album. I like to just put on a record. It doesn't have to just be guitar music, by the way. It can be, classical music or anything that you like that's melodic and pleasing to you. But put that on and just try and complement it, and just play over it. So play on top of it. So figure out what it is. So what that's going to make you do is you're going to have to figure out the key that the song is in, and just try and play a lead on top of it. Now, it's even fun to do that because you can do that with a song you've never heard. You can put it on the radio, and songs you may know or songs you don't know, you can figure out the key and play along with it. And so that's just a really good way to develop your ear. Another thing you can do, which is a little more creative than that, is to play on top of something, but to complement it. So instead of just playing a lead, one constant solo, if you will, you're coming up with little parts and kind of writing. Think of yourself now as a songwriter. I always like to tell people to think of it as you've been hired as a session player, and it's your job to complement the musicians in the band. And so wherever the vocal is, you're going to want to play around that, or wherever the piano part or whatever the song is. That's challenging because it's a lot of times the space is already full, and you think, well, where would I even fit in? And I know how frustrating that can be, especially the first time you do it. You think, I don't know how to do this. I can't just write a part for something, but try. Just try and come up with something. And this is where you might do some chords and higher voicings, or playing some little lead parts that complement a vocal kind of call and response thing. Whatever the vocal's doing, you're doing it. But whatever that is, just try and figure out a part, because that's your job as the session player. So just think of that, and that's a good way to practice and really grow. That's a little less improv. That's more scientific, a little less art, a little more science. You're having to kind of break it down and think about structure a little. But that's going to help you if you're ever in a jam scenario. For those of you that want to play in a band, that'll be priceless when you're in those scenarios and you just want to jam. It'll also help you if you're wanting to be a songwriter and write your own songs, because it's helping you with composition. And so anyway, these are things that we can't teach online. I mean, we can show all kinds of things, and and I'll continue doing that. I love creating lessons every Friday, and I look forward to doing it each week. And and I'm trying to grow that too, and trying to think outside the box. And how can I share things, some of these things, in different ways? But some of this stuff, it really does come down to putting in some sweat. And so the other thing, the last thing is copying. And so taking an artist and trying to copy their leads, I did that. I remember it started with Albert King, because Albert King was the easiest for me to kind of understand what he was doing. There was a lot of repetition in his playing, and so I could find little phrases that he used over and over again. And I liked that. That gave me self-confidence. When I could figure out how to play an Eric Clapton lick on my own without somebody showing me, I realized, I had this new sense of self-confidence. And so I think that's important. Self-confidence is a big part of learning, because once you have that, you have the mental part of it, and you can kind of keep growing with it. So anyway, think about that. Take an artist, whoever it is, Robin Ford, Mark Knopfler, whoever your favorite guitar player is, and not just one, by the way. If you just copy one, that's plagiarism. But if you copy multiple artists, that's inspiration, right? So just think of that. You always want to be inspired by, not copying, because then what you end up with is you have your own sound. You become you. Your Eric Clapton is the combination of Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and Freddie King and whatever else he listens to, and that's what made him Eric Clapton. And he's my favorite, by the way. But you are, a combination of the people that you like. And so copying is what we all do. All the greats did it, and that's part of learning, is just figuring out, which parts you like and trying to do that. So anyway, those are 3 tips that I think will be helpful to you. I think the internet, as it continues to grow and YouTube grows and sites like Active Melody grow, it's going to be fascinating to see where we go. At some point, we'll be virtually putting on helmets and sitting one-on-one, across the room from each other, I'm sure. But there's just some things that you really need to be able to do on your own. And I hope that this has been some encouragement and inspiration for you.